I'm Rendan, and this is Venom 2.
All I ever wanted in this world is carnage.
It's better than the first one, but that's not saying much because I did hate the first one quite significantly. But this one is riddled with issues, many of which are the same from the original, many of which are new, but there are some things I liked as well, and I suppose we could start there because there are not many. The biggest one is the one I think people will latch onto most, which is the Venom character. They've given him a lot more to do in this. He has a much more distinct personality, which was enjoyable for some of it.
I'm sorry! I don't know what came over me. Please, let me fix it. So I can push it again! You are a loser.
Everybody gives what they can to this type of movie. They're all right. And Andy Serkis behind the camera does actually come up with some nice looking shots, some nice compositions. It's a decent looking movie on the whole. That's it. Almost everything about this falls completely flat. The characters are completely uninteresting. They're worse than they were in the first one, actually. Eddie Brock, who should be our main character as Tom Hardy, barely has anything to do in this entire movie. He skulks, is annoying, gets annoyed, and then saves the day. He has hardly anything to do through the entire film. His love interest has even less to do. She is basically just a plot device for the majority of the film. And Venom is not really doing much either. In fact, a big chunk of this story is told with Venom and Eddie Brock separated because they had a falling out 30 minutes into the movie. So there's a large chunk of time devoted to these two not even being together. So you just watch them do their own thing and skulk about, and that's all they do. But then there's the villain, who's Woody Harrelson and is wearing a quality toupee. He has possibly the worst motivation out of any villain I've seen in a comic book movie in recent memory. He has absolutely nothing interesting about him in the slightest. He's a convict serial killer who wants to get out because Eddie Brock wrote a story that made California's governor or mayor or somebody decide that the death penalty was back in style, and then made Eddie Brock watch him die, sort of, but not really. It's incredibly confusing, and because Eddie Brock did this, Woody Harrelson's toupee wants revenge.
Welcome back, Eddie Brock. It's been a long time. Miss you so much.
That brings us to the story, which is possibly the most underwhelming thing in this movie, or even the last one. The first one felt like it had more of a narrative thrust than this one does. The majority of the movie is spent with people wandering about, doing little to nothing. It was so uninteresting. The story is about Eddie Brock and Venom, who are split up, and Carnage and Woody Harrelson's toupee meandering around the city. That's literally the story. There is hardly anything happening in this movie. It is one of the least engaging movies I've sat through in quite a while. It was actually tedious to get through this hour-and-a-half movie. Absolutely tedious. And that's not helped by the sloppy at best pacing and editing of the film. The first 30 minutes are a complete cluster of ideas that barely gel at all. It's just cutting to one scene after another at such a frantic pace, it's almost impossible to understand why things are happening. It's not hard to keep up because the story is so generic and uninteresting, and the main narrative thrust is that the black Venom is going to have to fight the inverted red Venom at the end for reasons.
That is a red one!
You need to come out right now. I will let you eat everybody!
Promise!
I promise!
There are at least one moment that I can count where an F word is trimmed out. There's a couple scenes where graphic violence is clearly cut down or cut away from. And The editing in general, momentary or not, is completely sloppy. It moves from one scene to another with very little establishing shots or characters just teleporting wherever because that's where the movie needs to take place. It's a sloppy mess. It really is a sloppy mess, this whole movie. It's tough to watch. It's tough to sit through. It's incredibly uninteresting. And then it ends, and that's the whole movie. I give it a 3. If you like the first one, there's a chance you like this one, but that's slim, man.